Anthropic, the company behind Claude, one of the world's most powerful AI systems, just hit a wall that has nothing to do with their technology being broken. It's being broken by laws, specifically export control laws that are so unclear, even the company's lawyers don't know exactly which ones apply. This is one of the most well-funded, well-connected AI labs in the world, discovering that the rules changed mid-game, and nobody explained the new rules clearly. Imagine building a car company launching its first vehicles, and then the government says you can't sell to certain countries. Fair enough for defense reasons. But here's the problem. The government won't clearly say which countries. They won't define what counts as exporting your technology. Exporting AI could mean selling servers overseas, hosting compute in the cloud, or letting international users access your API, but the rules treat these completely differently. For Anthropic, it's not just a nuisance. Export controls can literally shut down international operations overnight, and they are dealing with rules designed in the Cold War era for missiles and nuclear technology, not AI systems that run on the internet. This story reveals something critical about how AI governance actually works behind the scenes, and it's messier than you'd think. Export controls have existed for about 70 years. Originally, they were about weapons, nuclear technology, military hardware. If a country could sell advanced weapons to a rival, that was a security threat, so governments created legal frameworks to block those sales. The logic was straightforward. Advanced technology gives nations advantage. A country shouldn't help its competitors build weapons faster. So the United States, Europe, and other nations created rules, lists of restricted items, and required companies to get special licenses before shipping those items abroad. For most of that 70 years, export controls were relatively simple. If you made a missile or a chip for military use, you needed permission. Tick the box, get the license, ship the goods. Companies knew the rules because the rules were about things you could physically put on a plane or ship. But AI doesn't work that way. Claude doesn't exist as a physical object. It's software running on servers. It's application programming interface access. It's language patterns learned from data. So when export controls suddenly started targeting AI in the last few years, nobody, and I mean nobody, had a clear playbook for how to apply Cold War-era weapons law to software that runs on the internet. That's where Anthropic's problem started. In May 2024, the United States Department of Commerce announced new export controls specifically targeting advanced AI. The rule was called the Foreign Direct Product Rule. Imagine every advanced AI model being treated like a military chip. If you've trained a powerful AI, you can't let people in certain countries use it without a license. Here's the problem. The rule was written in contradictory ways. One section says controls apply to models trained with certain compute power, but the thresholds are vague. Is it measured in GPU hours, data center electricity? Different interpretations give wildly different answers. Another section says controls apply to models with national security capabilities, but there's no clear definition of what that means. Then there's enforcement. The Commerce Department wants to prevent advanced AI from reaching countries they consider security risks. Reasonable, but they don't publish a clear list of which countries, and different agencies contradict each other. State Department versus Commerce versus Defense. Anthropic's legal team realized, we might have already violated these rules. We need to lock down our systems. We need to figure out who's accessing Claude from where. We need licenses we don't have. For a company with millions of global users, that's an existential crisis. So what does this actually mean for Anthropic's business? The company looked at their user base, millions of people in dozens of countries, and realized they had no way to quickly determine who's where. Someone signs up for Claude. They could be in San Francisco. They could be in Canada. They could be in a country on an export control list. There's no simple way to know. Under the new rules, Anthropic is technically liable for every international user. They can't just assume good faith. So they faced a choice: shut down their international operations or figure out a massive compliance infrastructure in weeks. In June 2026, last month, Anthropic announced they were restricting access in certain countries and regions, and they were implementing geofencing and additional verification. This is a company that built Claude specifically to be available globally as an alternative to United States-based AI models. Now they're being forced to fragment their own user base. But here's What makes this truly frustrating? They still don't have clarity on what restricted countries means or what the actual legal liability is if a single user bypasses their systems. The rules are clear enough to shut down a business, but not clear enough to know exactly how to comply. It's like being told you can't do something, being given 2 weeks to stop, and then realizing halfway through that you still don't understand what that something is. Anthropic isn't the only company feeling pressure, but they are uniquely positioned. OpenAI has global users, but they have United States government contracts. The government won't clamp down on their own contractor. Meta and Google are enormous multinationals with compliance teams already built. They have resources. Anthropic's different, well-funded, over $5 billion, but still lean. They built Claude as the non-United States alternative to American AI. Now the United States is making that positioning illegal in some regions. This might be the first time an AI company's growth strategy was killed by policy. Anthropic did what you're supposed to do, build for global markets. But the export controls were written by people who don't understand how AI is distributed. They modeled it on semiconductor manufacturing, make it in one place, export it. But AI is cloud software. You make it everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. What Anthropic is dealing with isn't a business model bug. It's a fundamental mismatch between 1970s export law and 2026 AI technology. And here's what gets worse. This precedent will shape how every other AI company responds to regulation. If Anthropic has to fracture their user base to stay legal, expect everyone else to start doing the same thing, even if the rules don't technically require it yet. The implications are genuinely alarming. First, AI companies will now geofence themselves, blocking users by location, requiring geographic verification. This actively damages global AI development. Right now, researchers worldwide contribute to AI systems. They find bugs, suggest improvements, help refine models. If those researchers can't access Claude, that feedback stops completely. Second, this fractures global AI permanently. China already blocks Western AI. Europe has the AI Act. Now the United States controls access by geography. The global ecosystem was designed as distributed collaboration. Now it's becoming 3 separated regions: American AI, Chinese AI, European AI, with restricted crossover. Third is competitive incentive. Any country that figures out how to build powerful AI without hitting United States export controls becomes more attractive to international researchers. You're directly incentivizing India, the United Arab Emirates, or any rising tech power to build AI independently. Ironically, vague United States rules designed to slow down global AI competition might accelerate it by pushing competitors to develop in parallel. Finally, the scariest implication: these unclear rules create what's called a chilling effect. Every AI company now assumes the worst. They'll build compliance infrastructure proactively, even if they might never actually violate anything. That costs time, money, slows deployment, fragments users, and all happens because the rules are too vague to follow with certainty. So how do export controls work mechanically? The United States maintains the Export Administration regulations, thousands of pages of rules. Inside those rules, there are designations and a commerce control list. Items on that list need an export license from the Bureau of Industry and Security. Claude, advanced AI, now qualifies. Companies have to figure, does Claude count as exported if a user in Canada accesses it? Germany. The United Arab Emirates? Technically, yes, the product crosses a border, but the rules distinguish between exporting software itself versus exporting access to software. That distinction matters. Exporting software requires a license and review. Exporting access, cloud service access, sometimes falls under less restrictive rules, except the rules are unclear about the difference. So Anthropic has to choose: assume worst case and block access everywhere to be safe, or try parsing the rules and hope they've interpreted correctly. If they interpret wrong, they face fines in the hundreds of thousands of dollars or criminal charges against executives. For a company designed globally, that's terrifying. And this is what makes the situation absurd. The regulation exists for good reasons. Governments should control weapons technology. But they're applying weapons technology law to software that's fundamentally open, distributed, and impossible to control geographically. It's like trying to regulate the weather with maritime law. Here's what matters. Anthropic will probably be fine. They are funded and they'll figure out compliance. But this isn't about Anthropic. It's about policy moving slower than technology. The government wrote weapons regulations for a tool that didn't exist 50 years ago. Export controls were designed to prevent weapons proliferation. Legitimate goal. But AI isn't a missile. It's software on the internet. You can't control it with Cold War law. You need new frameworks built for how technology works now. The scary part, other governments are watching. Europe has the AI Act. China has strict AI licensing. Soon every major region will have different rules, and AI companies will splinter into versions with different capabilities. Claude United States, Claude the European Union, Claude APAC, different rules, different access, different capabilities. What to watch? Does the United States clarify these rules or let companies operate in legal uncertainty? If it's the latter, expect geofencing, regional fragmentation, and smaller AI companies exiting entirely because compliance costs too much. This matters because the framework the United States sets now will determine whether the world has global AI development or separate regional AIs. And right now, that framework is confused. Follow for daily AI news as this situation develops.